Hey everyone, today for another vlog, and today it's a bit of a weird subject because like the subject of today is like the attempt to clarify. I don't have a really good word for it, and in many ways it's kind of the point of this one is like sort of talking out loud to clarify. It's kind of the original intention of these vlogs. At first I was like making them daily to like sort of clarify my thoughts because I was going kind of through a difficult time, and maybe I should bring that back. I'm not sure. Daily is a bit much though I've found, but maybe like every 2 days or something. But like the subject is roughly speaking circling on this area of like often we are dealing with things that we're not really good at articulating, and like there's a way in which like this is kind of like a lot of problems are like that because once you can articulate it, or you can be a lot more specific about how to address it or how to approach it. Like you can also like ask other people how you could do it, right? But like often like there's a kind of like pre-verbal stuckness, or we could that's how we could summarize it. Like and like the willingness to move from the pre-verbal to the post-verbal, I think is a huge part of like living, and like especially living with other people, and especially like how say living better with yourself, or like communicating better with yourself. Because like there's a way in which like if you don't go through like the post-verbal process, the pre-verbal to the post-verbal process, you're gonna start talking to yourself like in really weird ways, such as saying like, oh, I'm just screwing up, or like work is so stressful, or that kind of stuff. Like very vague statements that don't really help. Like that's kind of the big problem of like the pre-verbal, is that you don't really have a specific uh examination of what's going on. You're just like stuck with those problems, and I'm making this because this is exactly what I'm going through right now. Like I'm kind of stuck with those like low anxiety things in the background, which I don't really know what is causing them, like what is happening, and like what I can do about them. And I mean, the thing you can always do with regarse to stress is like slowing down and exercising, right? And in my case, not really exercising; it's more like shaking, because it's kind of a more readily available for me. But like I can do those things, but like obviously understanding the source of stress is also important, because obviously like it's a bit like if stress was like water in a glass. Like you obviously won't find ways to empty the glass, but you also want to make sure to understand like why there's water in the first place coming in. What like you could turn off the tap. Like, you could get better at removing the tension, but you could also just turn off the tap. That's kind of like and there's a huge advantage to being able to turn off the tap, because obviously it takes time to like deal with the stress and all that, and it makes life less enjoyable. It's like generally the type of issues I'm talking about is like just a general feeling of stress that you don't really understand, or like just generally wanting to do something but like you don't really know how to get started, or like you don't, or like having a sense that you want to do something but you're not really sure what, or like you haven't yet articulated what you want to do with your time, and so you just kind of like scramble it around, and you just don't, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but like you don't really use as well as you wish you did, right? So like I think yeah, like we could call this pre-verbal stuckness. Um, because yeah, you're kind of stuck, but you don't really know what's going on exactly. You don't really have terms and like frames to make sense of it, and that's a huge like how to say that's a huge like feedback loop. Because obviously, the more you're stuck in the pre-verbal stuckness, you're not going to like a lot of people. I guess that's a huge separation between people. Like the people who make progress in life are like the people who solve their problems effectively, right? Progress is a bit of a weird word with regards to life. The people who are good at solving their problems, I think they're good at like moving from the pre-verbal to the post-verbal. I think that's a huge characteristic of that separates them. And like, uh, it's worth asking, like why are some people so bad at like articulating what's going on? And perhaps it's perhaps it's as simple as like someone who just grows up in a childhood where like they never really had support, and like they haven't internalized the idea that like things can get better, or that other people could help, or that they could help themselves. Or like it's like this internalized self of sense of helplessness that just materializes into like getting stuck perpetually into this like pre-verbal examination of your situation. Like you just don't try to describe your problems. You just let them be, and you're just dealing with like those very very vague senses of like, I could be using my time better. I'm stressed, or like, yeah, that kind of thing, right? Like, I feel like I'm kind of stewing in that, and it's really not good. And I find that this has been those 5 minutes of just me talking about this problem have been very helpful. Like the the talking about the difficulty of talking about problems. It's kind of a weird meta thing going on, but yeah, unsurprisingly, it's a huge part of therapy, right? Like just talking about your problems, because what you find is that just the intention of talking about something unlocks a bunch of things that were just there, but you never like really put them together. Like a lot of the times we have a good intuition of what's going on, but like we never really sit down and talk about it. So like it's really like a simple intention, but like it's a really powerful one. And I think that's kind of like the commonality between like all of a lot of wisdom practices is that you're just spending time with yourself, introspecting. It's kind of like related to that way. Like y- you have a lot of like understanding which you haven't yet processed, which you haven't put together, and like that really helps. Like in my case, what I'm feeling more specifically, I think, is uh, like work is giving more responsibilities, more things to do, and I don't want that because first of all, I'm not getting paid more. Like it's just harder for like the same pay. Second of all, I don't care about my job. Like it's just for me, it's just like a temporary money grab to fund my personal projects, which I have decided to leave in like 2 years. By that I mean the job, right? And yeah, that's the general thing about work because my work is making me like go take those classes to like pass things to understand things related to finance. I don't know. The whole thing is super bureaucratic as always, but like big companies are super bureaucratic as always. Like I'm really struggling to see like why do I need to take all these classes when I could just focus on one of them and the others just feel kind of useless, but whatever. So all in all, work is just feels like it's giving me work which I don't care about, and I wish I could use that to work on my personal projects. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is that as I'm working on my personal projects, I realize like it's I, just, I want to work on them, but at the same time, I don't want to do that all of my time. Or like there's this part of me that just feels like I don't want to grind all my fucking life. Right? Like I don't, work is already kind of draining on me, and my personal projects, as much as I enjoy them and I'm interested in them, I don't want to do that for the all of my time. And the third thing, and I guess the third problem related is that I don't really know what else to do with my time than like work on my personal projects. And I think that's kind of like been the a big reason for like why I've been feeling so drained the past year really, and even past 2 years. I just don't have like those activities to like rest and enjoy myself and all that. And it's incredibly unhealthy. Or like long term, it will never be sustainable. And even now, 2 years is we could say that's like medium term. I wouldn't say that's a short term. That's medium term. Even then, I'm feeling very much the lack. It's just not sustainable. Right? There isn't like this rest and enjoyment of life that I could be getting. I'm not miserable, right? I'm not miserable, but like I noticed that it's just it's just really draining to like always have this sense of like, oh, when I'm done with work, I must work on my personal projects. And like it's not really like a verbal thought, but it's more like this sense of like, I'm wasting my time if I'm not doing that, which it's really bad, right? It's really bad because I'm just going to burn out, and I'm going to make even less progress overall. Um so yeah, I think I've articulated the general issue quite well. But it might be worth thinking like, why do I not allow myself to? It's possible that like I know what I could be doing for like the third one, like just things to just relax and have fun, but I'm just not allowing that. Or it could simply be that I genuinely never like try to devise those type of things in my life. It's kind of I'm not really sure at this point. I think it's both. I'm not sure which one more. Like honestly, yeah, it's hard to say. Like when I was younger, what did I used to do? When I was younger, I would just play video games, and I never really thought much of it. And I think there was a point where playing video games was really painful in my life because it really got in the way of like responsibilities at school. And I think that's when I kind of like created like a this like barrier in in my being, where like video games are bad and all that, which was might have been helpful for some point, but like I think at this point I'm just like it has been really unhelpful. It's not because video games are important in my life. Like honestly, at this point I don't really care about video games. Even if I was trying to get fun, I don't find them really enjoyable. But like I think as a general barrier against like fun that was kind of unhealthy now. Like there was a point when this distinction, right? Like just not allowing myself to really play video games. That was really helpful to like, get myself to school. But like now, I guess it's really not. And I think that that might be why like this kind of like stuck pattern of trying to survive that hasn't been like processed, that hasn't been like integrated in that stuff, right? Like yeah, I don't think it's like super deep, honestly. Like I don't think it's like hugely traumatizing, but it's pretty noticeable, right? Like it's pretty important to like look at it clearly and to really feel it all the way. But yeah, uh, this session was really helpful actually. Those 11 minutes, just yeah, just the intention to verbalize things is it's really powerful actually. I find language to be really powerful. Like just saying what is going on, that's really a powerful ability. Uh, yeah, and it's actually quite easy to practice. Like you just need to have the intention again, like just have the intention of honesty, and it usually comes out. Problem being, in many contexts though, honesty is not allowed. So that's kind of the problem. But when you're yourself, obviously, honesty is a lot more like desirable. Uh, Even though it might hurt, usually it hurts less in the long term. But so that's what I think I have to say for today. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.